Hello, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat at kumusta po kayo? Welcome again to our channel, Opinion Ka Lang. At medyo matagal din po tayong hindi nagkasama-sama. Medyo naging busy po tayo nung mga nakaraang linggo. Kaya hindi po tayo nakagawa ng vlog. And somebody asked me if possible na ang pag-usapan daw natin ngayon ay kung po maaari, kung pwede, yung powers and functions of the Chief Executive or the President of the Republic of the Philippines. Pero bago po natin pag-usapan yan, doon po sa mga bago ngayon, ini-invite ko na i-click po ang ating like button, ang notification bell, and ganoon na rin ang subscribe button para kahit na medyo matagalan tayong magkakwentuhan, pag nakagawa po tayo ng vlog, then ma-update po kayo agad-agad. Okay, so magkwentuhan na po ulit tayo ngayon. Ang ating pag-uusapan ngayon, yung the powers and functions of the Chief Executive. Say we have the three branches of government. Alam naman natin yan. In our setup of government in the Philippines under the Philippine Constitution, the 1987 Constitution, we have the three branches, which is a co-equal. They're co-equal in power. The executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So, pag-usapan po natin yung tulad ng sabi ko, yung the chief executive or kilala natin na president. You know, the function of the chief executive is to monitor and administer the state and its people according to the existing law of the land. So, there are different functions of the president. May mga functions yan at maring yung iba, hindi nila alam kung ano ba yung functions ng presidente ng Pilipinas. At yan ang ating pag-uusapan ngayon. Handa ka na ba? Okay, umpisahan na natin. Okay, as I mentioned that there are different functions of the chief executive or known to be the president. One here is known to be the diplomatic power. Ano nga ba itong diplomatic power? Well, the president has the power to make or enter a treaties. Ano ba yung treaty? That is the contract or agreement between a state to a state. Okay? And being the head of the state, he can enter into this kind of contract known to be treaty. But of course, with the advice and consent of the Senate, yung ating Senado. And the Senate will ratify the treaty entered by the President to become binding and legal. So that is a process. That is a check and balance, no? That the president can enter into a treaty as one of his function, but it can be checked through ratification by the Senate of the Philippines. Okay, so we have now the first, no? The second function of the chief executive, ito yung tinatawag na the president has the power to appoint officials in the government. Okay? The president will appoint but with the consent of the commission on appointment. Okay, for example, like yung mga secretaries, ina-appoint yan ng presidente, undersecretaries, the generals in the armed forces of the Philippines. So, makikita nyo, ang presidente ang nag-a-appoint niya, no? Yung mga commissioners, ganyan. But in the concurrence of the Commission on Appointment. So, yung mga commission appointment na yan, ang bumubuo niyan, ang members niyan ay sa iba't ibang sektor, no? May senador, may congressman, meron sa non-government organizations, private sectors, no? And even military, meron din yan. So, kung makikita natin that there is always a check and balance. But again, it is the power of the president to appoint officials in the government. Okay. Another is known to be the third, the military power. The president is also vested military power under our Philippine Constitution. The third chief executive is also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Philippines. So dalawa ang nagiging function niya, no? Our president, the chief executive, and at the same time, the president is also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Philippines. But take note, only the president and not the vice president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Philippines. Hindi pwedeng magmando ang vice president even though the vice president is also an executive. Only the president under our Constitution. Okay? Pang-apat na power ng chief executive or ng president. You know that the president is given the power under the Constitution to grant pardons for offenses against the state. Except in cases of impeachment. So hindi sasakupin 'yon ng power, ng pardoning power ng presidente. I will cite an example like Erap Estrada na nahatulan siya ng plunder but binigyan siya ng absolute pardon ni President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. So, ibig sabihin, binubura lahat ang kanyang kaso. And then, Robin Padilla also, nakulong si Robin Padilla, so binigyan niya ng presidential pardon, pero hindi pa absolute noon ni President Ramos. And then, nung panahon ni Duterte, he was granted the absolute presidential pardon. So, may kapangyarihan ang presidente na magbigay ito. At it cannot be questioned because this is an inherent power. Ano pa ba yung hindi ko nababanggit? Yung legislative power. Don't you know that the president have legislative power? But this legislative power is limited. Kasi the legislative power is merely vested in the legislative branch of the government, which is co-equal branch of the executive kung saan nandoon ang ating presidente. Although, it is the responsibility of our Congress to introduce and pass legislations or laws. Well, it is also the duty of the President to take a look of the law that has been approved in Congress. And the President has the power to veto or to sign the law for its execution as provided by our Constitution. So, ano ba itong veto power ng Presidente? So, kasi once the bill has been approved in Congress, both houses, the lower house and the upper house, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives, no? Pag na-aproba na nila yan, dadalhin nila yan, no, sa presidente para pirmahan or pag-aralan. So, the president, sabi ng batas, na meron siyang kapangyarihan tong veto power na ito para ihinto muna, no? Kung meron siyang agam-agam, so ibibito niya 'yon, ibig sabihin, uh, i-annotate niya 'yon, sasabihin niya kung ano yung kanyang mga komento sa batas na ginawa ng Kongreso, at ilalahad niya 'yon sa kapirasong papel, maybe, at ibabalik niya ngayon sa point of origin, which is the Congress, para pag-aralan yung mga punto de vista ng presidente, the president, para hindi muna may patupad, the execution or the implementation of the law will be temporarily stopped. So this is the legislative power of the president. And another, the president can issue executive orders. No, so this is a legislative function. But again, when we speak about executive order as function of its legislative power, may limitation kasi this will be given, the execution of these executive orders are the agencies under the executive branch, yung mga agencies ng under ng gobyerno. Ano yung mga yon? DPWH, DILG, DOH, di ba? So alam niyo na yun, NEDA, Department of Transportation, Department of Communication, yun yung mga pagbibigyan ng mga executive orders, because that is executive offices. And then the presidential proclamations that no need for the concurrence of our Congress. So, ayun po yung mga iba't ibang klase ng powers ng ating presidente. At sana may natutunan na naman po tayo ngayon sa ating kwentuhan. Maraming salamat po at sa susunod. Bye-bye.